Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. You are on the Duchess of Unicorn YouTube channel, and this is where we discuss everything royals as it pertains to Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. And today is the 3rd of March, and I'd like to attempt to work my way up to release 2 videos by each evening, especially since the news keeps changing. So today I am on this article here. I believe this is from vanityfair.com. I just kind of choose my articles based on the heading, and I skim the articles to see, a little bit about where they're going with this. But this one stuck out at me because I've been wanting to speak out on this alleged baby Archie. Now, I have so many ideas on this and so many opinions, but I'm going to share in a minute. But first, the disclaimer. My YouTube channel is for entertainment purposes only. All my content is found on the public domain. These are my opinions only, and I'm based in the United States. And I share my United States browser and my algorithms with you, as this is what is showing up on my searches. And of course, keywords are important, but I would like to, whoops, I almost tripped. I would like to talk about this article because, in all honesty, I find this extremely telling that we're not seeing anything about Archie. So we're seeing very little about Archie, but what we're seeing is that he's not going to be here, or he's not going to make an appearance there. We are not seeing anything in terms of Archie that states, he's going to be showing up with his alleged mother. Now, I say alleged because, what's really going on here? Now, let's just take a little step back and look at the Markles. So, Meghan has made sure to eliminate her father, which is really odd because he raised her. It's been reported that he raised her. She's eliminated him, even though he paid for her schooling. And she has eliminated her sister, which reports say that the sister is so jealous of her, but yet there's no real proof of that. What we see is there's an age gap, and we see 2 very different people. Okay? And what we don't see is we're kind of being blinded by all this chatter, but what you do see, the proof is that Meghan is not publicly associating with her family, and her family is backing that up, especially since it's her father who raised her. So his entire family is speaking up and out, pretty much not in Meghan's favor. And there's a reasons for that. I mean, every family member speaking against what the Duchess is saying to be true. And you're also not seeing anything from Doria. There's a reason for that. Okay, so I believe that there could be a few case scenarios that would make sense. Like, this child is really not Archie, the real Archie that exists somewhere. This one is not it. This comes to me because, A, you have to look at these things with an open heart as well as eyes. It looks like Meghan is familiar with holding this child. It looks that she's familiar with holding the child. It also looks like there's more emphasis on Desmond Tutu and the interaction between Desmond Tutu and the prince, and especially Meghan. There seems to be that. We don't really see anything but spectator kind of involvement with Prince Harry in terms of this little baby. So he's like holding the baby's leg, like goo goo gaga, hey, hey little boy, hey. but you don't see any dad interactions. You don't see any love transpiring between the two of them. The vibe in general between the three of them isn't of a loving one. It is mainly coexisting, like maybe a coexisting type of a vibe that I see. And although this is an old photo, they're posting it for March 2nd, which is right now, which is a day ago. So we've been blocked from any current photos of Meghan in the on the journalist or media outlets. No photos. However, we'll have 2 photo ops. She'll be going, well, we won't have the gala because I just saw an article that says Meghan will not be attending the Met Gala as the tabloids have reported. And I saw that article on l.com online. So if you go to l.com and maybe just search for Met Gala, Meghan reportedly not attending, it'll pop up, I'm sure. So that also was an article posted on March 2nd. But when I did my Met Gala video, which was March 2nd, that article did not show up. Not at least in my browser and my algorithms. Did not present it to me. So I wonder if we're being played completely by PR and some outlets who are in cahoots with Meghan's camp. Okay, and it seems like the people who would be in cahoots with Meghan's camp are like magazines. Because let's face it, we see a lot of interest in with Meghan for magazines. I guess she idolizes magazines like People.com, Vanity Fair, Town and Country, Elle magazine. I think that she has a desire to maybe write because she was a blogger with the TIG, and I think the TIG was more successful than her acting career. But I think she has a way of being very chaotic and wanting to be in media. So she wants to be in media, but is angry with the media that take photos of her. But she wants to be in media, whether she's on the writing part of it or editing part of it or being featured in it. But she doesn't want photos of her in terms of the royal rota or being in the royal family. She wants privacy. So I find that interesting. And in terms of this old aged photo and mixing with this new title, Baby Archie staying in Canada for Meghan and Harry's farewell tour. So they're calling it a tour, like as if she's a celebrity, like she's on tour. She is not a entertainer, and that's what I actually meant by, saying farewell tour. She's not an entertainer. She's not really a celebrity, but because of Suits and it being on for several years, okay, we'll give her that. So she's some type of celebrity in that terms. But even at that status, she was never invited to, say, like the Met Gala, or she was never hobnobbing with Beyonce and Kim Kardashian and Amal Clooney and George Clooney and Hillary Clinton. Like, she wasn't part of any type of clique that was substantial. She was a B actress, and so she was doing the B actress rounds because after 7 years, she had been at a certain level. Now, I'm not in Hollywood, but as a person who looks at this type of stuff, whether it be in the magazines, while I'm at the supermarket, or on television, or e-news, or all these other outlets, you'll see that Meghan had a certain amount of status, but it was never something where I ever saw her before she was involved with Prince Harry. Like, I never knew she existed. And I'm sure there's thousands upon hundreds of thousands of people who did not know. So she gained a lot more status. She really reminds me of when you go to, like, not the circus, or maybe it is a circus, when you see people hit that with a big hammer, you hit the thing, the red ball, and the thing shoots up in the air and rings a bell. It's like a thermometer or something, and it goes bing, and whatever. So it's kind of like when she got involved with Prince Harry, that's what happened. She hit the hammer on this bell thing and bing, 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 and she elevated her status. And of course, with status came more money. And I don't know, I'm imagining they said there was no prenup when he was engaged to her, right? There's no prenup. She got married, there's no prenup. So if she wants to split, she now has extra bags of cash. Okay. So when I think of baby Archie and how we led up to baby Archie even existing is that she is 38 to 40 something, which has been reported all over the internet that the age is put out there to make her younger because she was in acting, and she, the older that you are, the less parts of quality that you get. She never got any quality parts, acting parts. So that day is over. That ship has sailed. So 38. So they say she's 38 right now, even though she's older, supposedly, allegedly. Baby Archie is staying in Canada for Meghan and Harry's farewell tour. So when they say tour, it makes us think she's a entertainer. And so we'll try to read into these words. Pay attention and read into them, but between them. When we use tour in our verbiage, that, also makes you think of celebrity status. And, yes, you'll see like the royals, they do a tour when they go to another country, but this is not what they're pertaining to. She's going back to the UK where she was anointed a duchess through marriage of Prince Harry. And here it's not a tour, it's her obligation. It is part of her agreement that she signed on the dotted line and made arrangements being a royal. In a few weeks, several weeks, she will no longer be a royal, And anyways, it's by marriage. As soon as she's married, she will not be a royal. And I think it's been convinced and suited to her now that she is not ever going to be Princess Diana status. So when she leaves the royal family, it's not like anybody's ever going to think of her as a princess or relate her to Princess Diana. She was not able to pull that off. She was not able to fix it so that we all believe her to be a Princess Diana type. Okay. And by the way, Princess Diana was still of the noble realm. Her father was a lord, and Princess Diana was a lady when she was like a teenager. So she already came from a royal level, the royal court. She was, an aristocrat. Her family was an aristocratic family. So Meghan is not cut from the same cloth, and she cannot be or assume to be like a Diana. There will never be anyone like Diana. That's just it. That ship has sailed. All the best you can do is respect her, her legacy, and look up to her as a person to emulate, perhaps, or try to be like. But Meghan fell way short. And I think that she fell way short because her personality dictates who she is. She is not a kind, loving person, in my opinion. Because I think if you're a kind, loving person, your deeds, your actions speak louder than your words and your facial expressions. So you can smile all day long, but it doesn't mean that you're a kind and loving person, that you have a kind and loving heart. And so I think that when we look at this article with baby Archie is staying in Canada, I have so many thoughts. The first thought I have is that baby Archie doesn't really exist. And if he does exist and he was by a surrogate, that could make sense. And that would make sense because when Meghan was married to her first husband, Trevor Ingleson, it was reported that she signed a prenup that said, he would have, if she had a baby, he'd have to, spend money. She had to be able to spend money to join a gym and be physically fit and, get her body back and all this other stuff. And I don't know, maybe it meant plastic surgery too. I don't know because I wasn't there. But it's been reported somewhere online, allegedly, that there was that agreement between them. And when you see the difference between her marriage to Trevor Ingleson and her today person, you see two totally different people. It's not like when you look back at her life and her past relationships, and when you hear about them or read about them, that they resemble anything close to being of royal quality, for instance, just for lack of better words. And so when I see this article, I think, well, baby Archie doesn't exist because we've only seen various different looking children. That's all we ever see. These children that have different face shapes, different facial structures, different body structures, head structures, features, and they're not equal to each other. They may be similar if you're not paying attention. And there's other people with even keener eyes that, look at the measurements and look at the circumferences between the eyes and the ears and the length of their heads, and they know the numbers aren't adding up. But for the person who just looks with an open heart and open eyes, you can see that these little babies are different than each other and very different from Meghan and Harry. Thirdly, when I see this article, baby Archie is staying in Canada for Meghan and Harry's farewell tour, I feel like if baby Archie does exist, he's somewhere behind the scenes. Like, not just because of the privacy, quote unquote, thing, like, oh, our baby deserves not to have to be raised as a royal. What? Wait a minute. Isn't that even the reason why you married Prince Harry? Because if you didn't want to be considered as royal, then you would have thought differently about marrying him. If you didn't want to be marrying him and be considered as royal and have a child potentially considered as royal, you wouldn't have married him. You would have said no. You could have dated him for a really long time. You could have made any other kind of arrangements. You maybe could have worked it out in the long run if you stepped back a little while, but you wouldn't subject your child to something that you don't believe in, because apparently now you feel like you have to hide the child out. And when I see this article, it reminds me that there's so much fakery going on and so much blatant self-satisfying behaviors that we're all just subject to watch it play out as if we, the people, the public, don't mind being played. And Meghan suing the Sun and the Daily Mail, whatever they're suing between her and Harry, it's like they both are suing. It's almost like it was created as a diversion, and duly it can back up their and substantiate their claims of being an intrusion of privacy. That's why they need to do this. Their privacy was breached and such on and so forth. And then Harry takes something that happened 15 or 8 years ago and tries to sue now for that too. It all just seems like, how do you sue for something that happened 10 years ago? Well, in 2020, you can actually sue for something that you did 20 years ago. It's amazing. It's like there's not enough laws and not enough things being broken today to just stick with suing and being concerned with the things that are wrong in the present day, that we have to go backwards to justify something in the present day. So I don't know. It seems like a diversion. And it has a lot to do, again, between having this baby that deserves privacy, and he does, but everybody does. But to knowingly marry into the royal family and then, dangle this, oh, I can't have my baby being raised like this, is ridiculous. Because any woman with half a mind would say, I don't think I can do this. And bringing a baby into it is even worse, because now it's like, to me, it's like feeling of nearly child abuse. Why would you, if you knew that this isn't something that would, make sense to you or feel good to you, why would you subject a child to it? And so early on, when Meghan came into the family, she acted like it was great having your photo taken, and she was in thousands of photos, and she seemed cool with it. And according to the press, they reported she enjoyed it. It only became a problem somewhere around midway or just before midway when the baby and people were starting to question with moon bump stories and why is she being overly theatric with the baby bump and holding it like it's going to pop out of the middle of her section of her body. And to me, I think she was doing that a little bit to be applied motherly, and the other thing was to be conscious that that bump was staying where it should be. It wasn't floating upwards, it wasn't sideways, it wasn't falling too down, that it kind of would be helped in place with her kind of holding on to it. Because we have seen some clips, and I don't have them here, but we have seen some clips where the thing is making like a popping noise and she can bend all the way down and squish that stomach up like it doesn't even exist. How did she do that? Because it doesn't exist, right? That's the first thing you think. Because I know that many women, myself included, who have had children, it's not a move that you can just squish, like bend all the way down, full-blown pregnant, and not feel like you're squishing your child that's living inside you. Something that we're not sure Meghan is aware of. Or maybe she wasn't just conscious of. And thirdly, if the baby Archie does exist, like for real, there's a Prince Harry and Meghan Markle baby. Perhaps the baby is, and I hate to say this, for some reason, unable to be in the limelight. And maybe he has been placed in care quietly and discreetly, being raised with a team of people, and Meghan is the mother, and it's just that. And I want to say, you never see a child with some type of disability in the spotlight in terms of the royal family. So do you really think that every child born into the royal family, into the royals, in a royal bloodline is perfect, has no mental or physical disabilities? It's kind of crazy to think so. And so I think when you have a child that has some type of defect, I imagine in my mind that that child would be put somewhere on the back burner in terms of the media outlets showing him or her to the media. And I imagine that child would be raised quietly somewhere in the background, protected. Okay. And I think there is somebody I know the Kennedys have had someone in their family that was mentally challenged or some type of disabled. I can't remember what it was, but I did read this, so I do know it happened. I just can't remember what. It was a girl. It was a female child, and she was kind of raised, and kind of they downplayed the media on her. And I do know that I also read an article somewhere. I might have even seen a YouTube documentary posted somewhere in the Queen's family of a member of her family having a disability, a female, and being put in some type of protective or institutionalized, but not, institutionalized like that, but putting like a home for separate, quiet, private care. And never did she see too much publicity because it wasn't allowed. And so she was raised and grew behind the scenes in private with caretakers. And I don't remember her name, but if you look it up, you will find, I know you will because I've seen it, and I've actually watched a documentary on it, and it talked about the person who was a female being disabled, and she lived and died in care. And she didn't get much contact with the royal family. So that's out there, and I just wonder, I can't help but wonder if that could be part of the big, huge privacy thing with this child. And I just laid out to you 2 to 4 different scenarios of why we never really see this baby. Like, we'll get an Instagram photo of a child and we can think it could be Meghan's, but it resembles nothing of Harry. And I have seen articles that say, oh, look, this baby looks just like Harry. And I'm like, no, that baby looks nothing like Harry, except the baby might be a little bit fair-skinned. Outside of that, the features just did not look representative of Prince Harry when he was a baby in Diana's lap. He just doesn't look the same as any of the children that have been photographed and shown to us. And furthermore, when we think of baby Archie staying in Canada for the farewell tour, we really have to understand that the Queen is abreast of every single thing that happens in her family that would concern the public. Okay, so if you're a royal marrying, and then having a child, and that child is, in Africa, or he's in Beijing, or he's in the United States, Prince Harry nor Meghan could hide that. The Queen has access to the most current information. She is aware of things that concern every aspect of her family, and sometimes before we even hear it. And she is already working with her own team to make things what we see, to make things as we see it. Whether we see that an article like this, like the baby is not coming, well, the Queen already knew he wasn't coming, and maybe he's already in the Queen's, quarters, and they just don't want anybody to know that the baby is there because they don't want the baby to be seen, the actual real baby to be seen. And maybe the Queen knows the baby is staying in Canada and gives the okay. Maybe she doesn't even care. We can't assume we know because we're only fed and leaked things that we are fed and leaked. And so when this article comes up, that's all I think about. Those were some of the things that came to my mind, like, stop showing this photo because nobody believes that that baby is this woman's baby. And then we're not allowed to see any more photos. So because the baby is either a different baby or the baby doesn't exist. And then, of course, there's the very last theory that the baby that we are seeing or aren't seeing is not Prince Harry's and Meghan's, but Meghan's and Marcus's. And that would make a lot of sense in some way because maybe the Queen didn't allow Prince Harry and Meghan to have a child together for whatever reason. And we could go on and on with the imaginary ideas that could really be reality. And even though they sound far-fetched, well, this is a far-fetched thing. For a biracial American divorced woman who has kind of a torrid, life there, if you start to look into it, and a chaotic personality, to be marrying into the royal family per the third in line, or the sixth in line now, but originally the third or fourth in line. And so it couldn't be more crazy out of left field than that. Like, no one would imagine that. And when we think of Diana was a nanny, but she was also already in the aristocratic realm. She was already a young woman that was born into a member of the royal court. Her father was made a lord, and she became a lady a little bit later on, just after that. So it's not the same. And when we think of Kate was raised as, in a family that was, well off. Whereas in Meghan's family, nobody was well off. It happened that her father worked really hard and made a decent career and was a decent kind of guy, in his industry and has longevity in his industry, but it wasn't until he won a lottery, $1 million lottery, that he was able to pay for his daughter's schooling. And that's what he chose to do with the majority of the money. And then Meghan grows up and gets into all this, knee deep into all this wealth and status in terms of marrying in, and then denies her father. So I have theories on that too. I may share them in another video, but I think that's it for today. I didn't want to read the article because we all know that that child is not going to make an appearance, that he's not going to be there, and that, it's been, worked out that way. And let's stop trying to say that the Queen feels heartbroken that the child won't be there, because who's going to make the Queen have a broken heart without at least paying for it? In other words, who is going to insult the Queen, and what court would allow the Queen to be insulted? She had to okay this, and for good reason. Either the kid is not even a part of the royal bloodline for real, for absolute, or she doesn't care either way, or she already knows where the child is and has approved that and is okay with that. And for all we know, the Queen is sitting next to the little boy as we speak, but it just isn't going to be publicized because we don't count. All we count for, and we meaning the common people, or the people that, geek out or follow the royals, is that we adore or adulate them and we idolize them. And without that, where is their platform to stand on? Outside of their money, where is their platform? If they don't take an official office in political or, whatever realm, international, political, what platform would they have to stand on if there was no people in which to look out over onto? If that makes any sense. So they don't exist without us. The royalty all around the world exist. I mean, there's African royalty, and they still go on being royalty even if we don't know about them. But with the British royal families, they go all over and all out to make sure it's hooked into the press and that they are publicized as such. And so the more eyes that see them, the more eyes that are interested in them, the more powerful and higher up they are in terms of, hierarchy. And again, what royalty would there be without a so-called commoner? They would just fade into oblivion and be, a story that they tell their family. And that has happened to royalty. I mean, there's Greek royalty. Prince Philip is part of that. But there was Greek, and they were overthrown. There's Russian royalty that were overthrown. But, that's a story that faded out into the world. They still have descendants, but those descendants now speak of being royal as a, family story or, a historical event. And they just live quietly. And of course, lastly, I want to say there's much more other royals out there, like the King of Monaco, the Prince of Monaco, where they are very, they have their things, don't get me wrong, they have things that are in public, but they seem to hold their status in some type of elegant, quiet strength. And that's what I believe a monarch should do. It is similar to what Queen Elizabeth does, in a quiet strength. And she, I think, will be the last to carry that. Maybe it will be with Prince Charles, but I think maybe more with Prince William. But after him, Queen Elizabeth especially, but after Prince William, I think really after Queen Elizabeth, I think that quiet strength, that noble strength, will disintegrate without anybody's doing. It'll just disappear, because I think a lot of the mystique with the British royals is dimming away, and I blame a little bit on that by Meghan Markle. and her intrusion and marriage into the royal family, because truly this time when they have a commoner, so-called commoner, marrying into a royal family, this really did seem like a way off left field move, and it did bring the mystique of the royal family down a few notches. So baby Archie is staying in Canada. We know that is going to be in every single visit until what happens when the child walks. You're never going to see Meghan. Meghan has fixed it so that nobody can take pictures of her on the basis of privacy. So if she does have a child or is seen leaving from a car to go into a home or to a business and she happens to have a child, the child is not going to be able to be photographed too. So we will probably not see much of this child until somebody has a leak. And listen, Edward Snowden leaked, and he is in exile somewhere, Russia or something, Germany or Russia, and people do leak things. So eventually there'll be things leaked because everybody likes the truth. They like to have the truth at their disposal. So somebody will catch a photo of this child and we'll see this child one way or another. And we will find out, or they'll leak information one way or another. It just takes time. Like I said, everything comes out in the wash. All right, I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for staying to the end. This was longer than I meant, and it's such a simple title, but it brings up such like interest, because we hardly ever see any photos because Meghan has fixed it prior to even Archie, but midway through, when she started hearing about the baby moon bump thing and the surrogate thing, and the surrogate was pictured, I think that she made this so all mouths be shut, but meaning camera lenses be shut, so that she doesn't have to deal with the obvious in terms of the public knowing. So we'll see. Like I said, if there's an Archie, whatever he looks like, we're going to see him somehow, some way in the future. It's going to be let out. If there's not an Archie, some way, somehow in the future, it will be let out. So see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.